This is the Bolder Than Most podcast, where we talk with those making bold moves in business, real estate, and life. I'm your host, Trae Jacobs. Thank you for being here. Let's jump right in. All right. Welcome back to the Bolder Than Most podcast. My name is Trae Jacobs, and today I'm joined by Lisa Moore. Lisa, how you doing today?
Doing well. How are you doing, Trae?
I'm good. It's a Sunday. Thank you for scheduling this on a Sunday. Wow.
Yes.
A lot of people wouldn't do that. And it has been a hectic week. Does this year feel like it's just like dragging? Like it's the longest January I've ever experienced in my life.
Yes. It's like part of me feels like we're so far into the year, but I also feel like we're not. And it's just like, oh, okay, it's still January here. So
Right. I'm looking back, like I've been so busy, but I'm like, what have I actually done? It's not a great feeling. I gotta work on that, man. Lisa and I actually met in the Multify community. That is Vina Jetty's real estate course. It's been pretty good so far. How are you enjoying that course?
It's been really good. For me, it started with the in-person masterclass that you hosted down in Arizona, which was 3 days, and it was amazing. And now it's kind of the online mentorship that's been really, really good. I love the calls that she does and just her availability and the content that she discusses and willingness to just be answering questions and helping. And it is a new mentorship, so there's new Zooms getting created. I actually host one of them that's a networking Zoom. There's ones now for raising capital and practicing your elevator pitches, calling brokers. So it just keeps getting better the longer that it's around. So it's been a really good community and really good mentorship that I'm happy to be a part of.
Oh yeah, man. What are your goals for the community? Like not for yourself, but the community in whole as a whole.
I mean, I would just love to see the community continue to grow. You know, the more people that are in it, and it's not just in, I should say the higher caliber people. Like you get a mentorship, you've got 20,000 people in it, but if nobody's active and nobody's participating, then it doesn't matter. So I would love to see this one continue as it has been, where there's a lot of interaction. There's a lot of people that are posting on the Facebook page, asking their questions, helping each other. You know, a lot of people might be hesitant to ask a question because they're like, everyone probably already knows this. But every time you post and people are responding, there's so much information and education that everyone gets from it. Yeah. So I love the interaction. I'd love for everyone that's in the community to continue posting. I mean, if everyone in the community posted even once a month, you'd have so much interaction and so many things, and there already is a lot of that. So I would just love to see everyone just continue posting and interacting and helping each other, and it just becomes more and more valuable that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I try to post too. I got to get better. Lisa, you post. You're like the queen of posting in that group, I'll say.
I tried. It helps when I often have a lot of questions. So.
Oh man! All right. So, what was your background before jumping into real estate?
My background was financial analysis. I went to school. My undergrad is in finance, and then I have my MBA in business management. So I was a financial analyst for over 15 years. Wow. So definitely the background of the numbers and the analytical mind for sure. So.
Did you have your MBA in business?
Yeah.
Was it worth it?
Yes, because I didn't have to pay for it. Okay. I don't know if it's one of those things, like, I feel like nowadays with your MBA, like it used to be, you had your MBA and you were almost guaranteed, like that is going to set you so far ahead of people and you're immediately making six figures and all this stuff. The MBA is almost becoming like the undergrad. So many people now are going their undergrad that, you know, I don't want to say everyone has it, but there's way more people that have it now. So getting your MBA, it's always good. I mean, there's no bad education. I mean, I guess in some ways there could be if you have boatloads of debt and you're making no money. But where the company I work for paid for my MBA, you know, it's been good to have, but I wouldn't say it is a differentiator in the workforce like it used to be. There
Yeah.
definitely are positions and places where it is, but overall, it doesn't hold that prestige, in my opinion, like it used to, just because there are so many. It used to be you couldn't just go and get your MBA. Like you had to have a certain amount of working experience and things like that. Now you can go and get your MBA and just add on a year to your undergrad and have it in 5 years. So some changes
Oh,
with that, but
I didn't even know you could do that. Wow. Yeah,
yeah.
I was thinking about it for a little bit. But I wanted to do the entrepreneurship route. Have you heard of that one?
Yeah, the me today probably would have gone that route.
Yeah, I think it's actually big in Utah. The entrepreneurship. Oh, gosh, I know a few people who've gone to the program out there. I don't remember what school it is though.
Probably at the probably the University of Utah would be my guess. I've heard that there's some entrepreneur and real estate specific degrees and avenues at the
Yeah,
University of Utah.
maybe one day, but for now, I'm head down grinding. So what was
Yeah, you definitely don't need it to succeed in real estate. So,
yeah, YouTube University. I'll take that.
yes.
What was your first step like when you jumped into real estate, right? How did that happen? How did you go from financial analyst into real estate investor?
So I grew up in Massachusetts and I moved to Utah, I live in Salt Lake City, Utah now. I moved here in 2016. And when I moved here, I knew that I wanted to buy a house and start to get into real estate. I didn't know exactly how it was going to look in the long term, but I at least knew in the short term, I wanted to buy a primary residence and I wanted to rent out a bedroom, which now is, thanks to Brandon Turner, coined as house hacking. But at the time, you know, what?
He coined that term, house hacking.
As far as I know, yeah, like I'm pretty sure that he's the one that kind of
Wow.
coined that term house hacking. I know he
Okay.
did Burr, like he's very good at kind of those short little abbreviations or finding good little terms to use. So
All
but
right.
yeah, I knew that I wanted to rent out part of my house because I wanted to cut back my living expenses as much as I could, but I knew I wanted to buy a house and start building that equity. And my plan was to live in it for a year or two, move out, rent it, buy another one, and kind of just keep going from there and see how it evolved. So 2017, I did buy my first one, rented out a bedroom on Airbnb, which back then that was what Airbnb was. People like me that just had extra space in their house. Now it's
Yeah.
all about the experience and making it this really cool space. But when Airbnb first started, a lot of it was just people renting out space in their house. So I rented out a bedroom and I wanted to do the short term because if I had family visiting or friends or something, I wanted to be able to block off and have no guests there. So that worked out perfect for me. But that was how I got my start and foot in the door with real estate. And it definitely, when you get a taste of it and seeing like, oh wow, I'm making reducing my housing expenses by quite a bit doing this and
Yeah.
stuff, and then it just led into other properties.
Hey guys, my company, Paige Capital Group, is actively sourcing and buying multifamily deals. If you're looking to put your money to work, gain some tax efficiencies, and grow your portfolio while we do all the heavy lifting, go to pagecapitalgroup.com/invest. That's Paige, PAIGE, capitalgroup.com/invest, and someone from our team will reach out. Now, back to the show. So when you started with Airbnb, I remember back in the day, they used to send photographers to people's houses so that the photos were like a certain level. Did they send a photographer to your house?
Mm-mm.
No?
That, I don't remember that being an option when I did it.
Yeah, that must have
Maybe
been
it
like when
was,
they
and I just don't
first
remember. That was
started.
a while ago.
Yeah, 2000. When
So
did it start? I remember because I was in LA when they started, and that was like how they blew up because their pictures were just really great because they were all professional. They weren't, people with their iPhone 3s taking pictures of a corner of a room.
yeah, that was
Very cheaply.
100% my first listing. Was definitely just me on my cell phone taking pictures, but it didn't matter as much back then. Like you didn't have. I mean, whenever I wanted it rented, whenever I had it open, the dates open, it was rented. Like it was if anything, I was having to shut off the date so it wasn't rented more than I wanted it to. So
Nice.
back then,
Yeah.
you didn't have to have the big fancy stuff you have now.
So that was your first step in the. So how far did you take house hacking? Right, you started with one bedroom. Did you actually get to the renting of the whole house and buying your next house? And
Yeah, so we actually, the house that we live in now, we currently house hack. We've house hacked a triplex. My husband had 3 properties when I met him, all of which he had house hacked. He started way earlier than me back in '04, and he was in college and uh, didn't want to pay for rent, so he bought a property, and his parents owned rental properties. So he had already
Mhm.
had a taste of it and kind of knew what it was about. So he bought a house, rented all the bedrooms to roommates, and lived for free, made a little bit of money. So when we got together, we moved into my first house and then moved into the house that we're currently living in. We bought it as it was definitely a fixer upper. The basement had a bedroom and a bathroom. It claimed to have a kitchen, but their kitchen was literally just cabinets, no water, no nothing. It was just like a few cabinets in one of the rooms. I'm like, it's a bit of a stretch to call a kitchen, but we can work with it. So we turned our basement into a 2-bed, 2-bath apartment that we still currently rent out.
Nice.
And we actually moved out of this place for a little bit to buy a triplex about 45 minutes away from here. And that was the final property that allowed me to be able to quit my W-2 when we bought that one. That one gave us enough cash flow that I could quit. And then we moved back here. So we've got some nice primary residence mortgages on a lot of our properties. The last few we've bought as investments, but yeah, we still house hack. Our basement tenants pay about 93 or 94% of all of our living expenses here. So it's
That is
it's something that we'd like to stop doing, but it's also really hard because it's like they pay majority of our housing expenses, so it's really
right.
nice.
That's amazing. I never could figure it out, right? Like I'm older now, right? I have 2 kids, the whole family's in this house, but I'm trying to figure out how do I take this house that I bought in 2020 with this crazy interest rate and this crazy low mortgage and use this to leverage to buy my next house or my next duplex, you know?
Yeah.
Um, the financing part scares me. How do you get financing when you're buying another property, a primary residence to live in?
So sometimes it was a little the hardest. And by hard, we just had to, write a letter, but we definitely kind of get questioned on it. And the fact that we, every couple of years, we're moving and get a new primary residence. One of them was within a year and a half. The mortgage companies do kind of start to question, like, why are you doing this? So we actually had to write a letter to our lender just saying, like when we moved into this one, we plan to rent out my other one, blah, blah, blah. And they were really picky when we moved out of this up to the triplex, as the underwriter is saying, okay, you guys live in a single family home, a 2-bed, 2-bath, 15 minutes away from your office, and you're moving up to a triplex 45 minutes north, so a further commute for your work, into a small 1-bed, 1-bath apartment. Like, why are you like, most people wouldn't do that. So to them, it was just so like, are you actually really doing this?
Right.
And so we just had, write a letter. It was basically, like, look at our history. Like, this is what we do. We move every year or two to house hack. We're building up our investment portfolio, and this is really the best way for us to do it right now. So we did have to kind of write a letter, and we had a really good mortgage broker that we'd worked with for a number of other deals. So he knew what we were doing and things like that. So
Yeah.
it can get a little tricky if they start to question, but nothing where it's this monumental thing that you have to overcome. So
So I've always saw this as something only for like high income earners, right? Like where you needed to be able to support all the mortgages off of your salary. Is that the case, or am I wrong there?
So that will depend on the lender, but once you can show a track record that you've been doing it, they will start to use the income from your other properties towards that. They won't use 100%. I mean, even now, when we go to get a loan, they'll look at our other properties, and they're not necessarily using 100% of that income, but they're using a majority of it.
Hmm.
But that is something, if you have never owned a property before and you're buying your first one, and then a year later you're moving to try and buy a second one, you might have to go through a few lenders before you find one that is willing to let
Right.
you use the income on that. But a lot of lenders, it's not like it's going to be finding a needle in a haystack to find a lender that will do that. But you may have to go to a few different lenders to be like, hey, I'm going to be moving and renting this one out. So once you get a signed lease, that really helps. So you can get a signed lease on the place that you're moving out of. Show that to the lender, like, hey, we're going to be renting this for X amount of dollars. Can we use this towards my income? And you'll be able to find a lender that will allow you to use some of that. Like I said, every lender is going to be different on how long you have to have been doing it for and how much they'll use, but odds are you will be able to find a lender that will let you use that income.
Yeah. So again, this house, I mean, I'll break it down for you. This house is 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. My mortgage is less than $1,700 and I'm a mile outside of downtown Dallas. It's kind of crazy. So I can literally, rent this for double what I pay in my mortgage. But where are we gonna go? That was the next thing. I want to buy a duplex or a triplex, but the housing here in Dallas is through the roof right now. It is so expensive everywhere.
Yeah. Salt Lake is expensive too. So, but finding the duplex, and right now you can buy, there's a new law changes, let's say a few months ago, might be a little further than that, but sometime last fall, where you can buy a 2, 3, or 4 unit property with only 5% down. Obviously, the more you put down, the better you'll have, like your lower payment and stuff. But just to know that you can go and house hack and buy a 2, 3, or 4 unit property and not have to do the 20, 25% down payment that you used to have to do.
Yeah.
And that's definitely something you can consider. And if you have the, equity in your current house, there's some lenders, this is something that we're actually going to try and do, is go to local lenders, because we have a lot of equity in some of our properties, and with interest rates where they are, we were doing cash out refinances when the interest rates were 3-4%. Now that they're higher, cash out refinances are not as appealing. So we're going to try and go to local lenders and be like, hey, we've got X amount of dollars of equity in this property. Can we use that as collateral as our down payment? So if we find a property that needs a $200,000-$400,000 down payment, like, hey, instead of coming to cash for our down payment, can we cross collateralize and you put a lien on this property that has the equity in it as our down payment? I've talked to a few investors that have done that. So that's something that we're going to look into. So that could be an option for you as well. Like if you are looking to move, talk to some small local lenders that might be willing to allow you to use that equity in your property for a down payment as your down payment. So you don't actually have to come out of pocket with that down payment money.
And you're not. Okay. We're going to have to talk offline about that, because that is super interesting. I think I think I have like 200,000 of equity in this house, and that probably would go a decent, like, and then the multifamily, the up to 4 units. I thought that was only for first time home buyers. Is it for everybody?
Oh, I haven't heard that it's for first time home buyers.
I might have just assumed that, but yeah, I don't, and I'm probably wrong. And that's honestly why I haven't looked too far into it, because that's where I was just like, oh, that's definitely like a first time home buyer incentive type thing. So
yeah, I haven't researched it that heavily, only because we're trying to not house hack our next property. But then when we saw that, we're like, oh, maybe we will buy like one more fourplex and move into it. But I'll have to research that. That I'm not sure on if that's a first time home buyers. I don't recall hearing that in the stuff that I have heard about it. But yeah, hopefully that's, let's do a quick. So this I had heard, it requires that the rental income is sufficient to cover the entire mortgage payment, including principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, on a mandatory self-sufficiency test for purchase of a 3 and 4 unit homes. So my understanding on that, so if it's a fourplex, 3 of the units have to the rent has to cover the mortgage. If it's a 3 unit, then 2 of the units have to be able to cover the mortgage, the PITI. But that's the only requirement that I've really heard.
That's good. But it's how many people actually use this? Like, how many people can find a duplex where 1 unit pays for the whole thing, or a triplex?
So a duplex, it doesn't have to. Okay. Only a triplex and a fourplex. So if you were to find a triplex or a fourplex, the mortgage, and it's just the mortgage, just the principal and interest. So
Oh,
if you're
not
buying,
not taxes and insurance, just
sorry,
P&I.
your full PITI, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance.
Okay.
So that has to cover. But I mean, you buy a fourplex like here in Salt Lake, you're buying a fourplex for 800,000. If you've got a 4,000 ish, $4,000 or $5,000 mortgage, but you're renting each of those other units for 1,500, like that would cover your PITI. But that is one of the caveats with that, is it does have to cover the PITI.
That sucks because, Texas, we don't have sales tax, but we have high property tax, which just makes that much like less attainable here.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Well, that sucks. I mean, it doesn't suck. Maybe I can find something and something that needs some work. Who
Yeah.
knows? Who knows? There's just so much equity. Like it's insane. It is insane.
Yeah, that's one of our biggest. I mean, it's not a bad problem to have. But that's one of our biggest problems right now is we have so much equity in our properties. And it's just like, how can we get to that equity?
Right.
So,
Right. Golden handcuffs because I can't sell this house.
yeah.
Would not be smart, but yeah. Okay. Let's circle back in. All right. So when you started house hacking, you had some goals, right? How have those goals changed from then to now?
So my original goal when I first started was I just wanted to offset what my living expenses were when I was renting. When I first moved out to Utah, I was renting an apartment. And I knew that buying a house, even though my mortgage payment was within, I think it was within $100 of my my rent, you're gonna, there's the maintenance and expenses. So I knew that it was still gonna be a little more expensive. So my goal was to make a bare minimum of $300 a month off of that. Ideally, be making $500 to $600. I easily did that. Like I said, I was having to like close off days just so I wouldn't have people at my house all the time.
Right.
So I easily achieved that. I mean, there was months where I was making 1,000, 1,500, and it was paying for all of my mortgage. So now, I mean, for us, our goal with house hacking is always to be offsetting our housing expenses. Like I said, the place we're living now, they're paying 93 or 94% of our housing expenses. To me, the whole point of house hacking, and that's basically what house hacking is finding a way to generate income from your house. And it doesn't even have to be renting it out. I mean, there's places like Peer Space where if you have like a really cool backyard or a really cool room or just something
Right.
that people may want to rent and they want to do a photo shoot and they come in, they use it for a few hours, they pay you for that. I mean, that's an option as well. I mean, you have a podcast studio and people want to be able to come and rent that. You can rent your podcast studio. So there's other ways to generate revenue that doesn't necessarily have to be you renting out a bedroom or renting out a mother-in-law apartment or something like that. Even if you have an extra garage, you're like, I don't need, granted, most people probably have their garage full of stuff, but if you had a garage space, you had a shed, like you plop a shed in your property and that's a storage unit for somebody. So now anytime we're looking to house hack, it's just how can we generate revenue from our property and offset our living expenses as much as possible.
Yeah, I've actually never thought of house hacking outside of like anything that is more than renting a room in your house. Wow. What was that place? You said Peer Space?
Peer Space, PEER space. So you can post like if you've got a cool pool and people come and do like a photo shoot, or I mean, they could do some sort of events or things like that, but there's all sorts of things that you can go on. I actually just found out about Peer Space. I was visiting a friend in Hawaii and she was talking about Peer Space and I was going, wait a minute. Wait, what was that? So, but I went on there and there's people renting out all sorts of spaces in their house or the outside or whatever, just have people come and use it for a short period, and they're coming typically just for a few hours, doing what they need to do and leaving, and you're making some money off of it.
Yeah. Okay. So after house hacking, we moved into, well, what was your next real estate investment?
So in 2020 is when we started really ramping up our buying. So I bought my first one in 2017. 2020 is when we moved into the current house we have. We also bought another duplex in Colorado. We bought another triplex, another duplex, another duplex. We have a fourplex. We're LPs with Pace Morby and Vina Jetty on 192 unit syndication in Raleigh. So we've just really been trying to buy as much as possible. And the house hacking, we are to the point where we'd like to not be house hacking or living in even more so not living in construction zones. We've done that quite a bit. And now we want to get into larger assets. So we're really focusing, we'll still buy the 2, 3, 4, 8 unit assets for sure. But now we're really looking to start getting into up to 50 unit assets. There's, a lot of the boomers. I mean, they talk about the boomers, and I can't remember what the number is of wealth they have in businesses and assets and stuff, but there's this huge passing of wealth from that generation to the next generation. And, we really want to find a way to get in front of those boomers that have real estate and that have rentals, that are looking to retire, be done with it, and sell their property. So that's kind of the niche that we're really going to focus on in 2024 and see what traction we can get to find that people in that generation in their 60s, 70s, 80s that are really looking to sell, and hopefully we can be the ones to buy as many of those as possible.
Real quick, guys, if you're enjoying this show and want to help us grow, share, shoot us a 5-star rating, and follow the show on Apple or Spotify. My goal is to continue to grow and get bigger and bigger guests on the show, to reach more like-minded real estate investors and help everyone be more bold and build more wealth. Now, back to the show. Oh, yeah. So I think it's something like 40 million baby boomers are retiring in the next year, 2, 3. I don't know the exact number, but yeah. that demographic, they own a lot. I mean, Cody Sanchez talks about buying boring businesses.
Yeah.
Man, there's going to be so many businesses that just don't sell and just die. There probably isn't going to be a lot of real estate that just dies, but there's going to be some. Like, how do you position yourself to get, first in line when these things come up for sale?
So that's something that we're working on now, like how to get in front of them, how to just be where that generation is. So and what really got us thinking was actually my father-in-law. He was at his hearing aid doctor and he said, "Hey, my hearing aid doctor owns rentals," and was commenting that he's thinking of selling them soon. He's like, "You guys should go talk to him." And that was just like light bulb in our head. And I just went, what other businesses like that do boomers go to often? If somebody's getting a hearing aid, yes, there are young people that get hearing aids. Odds are majority of people that go to hearing aid places are going to be older. Even just going, a lot of people wear glasses, but just going into places like that, into local businesses that boomers are frequenting, is really something we're going to focus on. So we're going to be in the next few weeks really like, okay, what businesses do we really want to focus on? My husband's already started kind of drawing up a flyer so we can go into these businesses, talk to them. And, some businesses have boards that you can put stuff on. Right. But even just talking to the receptionists, and if we can talk to the doctors or whoever they are and just, hey, like, this is what we're looking to do. We're 2 local people. And it's funny, like when we think about how we want to market to people, that's a generation where like we want them to know that it's us buying, where in other instances you want people to know, like, I have an entire, we're a more established, like, institutional type investor. But with those, like, a lot of them, they want to know that it's being passed off to somebody that is local and lives here, and
right,
it's not just, the Blackstones of the world. So, we're just going to be looking for the places that they are, going to local businesses, even senior, community centers, things like that. Any place that generation frequents. They're also big Facebook users. So we are probably going to try some Facebook ads that really aim towards that demographic and see what traction we can get.
Yeah, we'll have to like compare notes, because I'm putting aside a budget just specifically for Facebook ads to, one, build up my investor list, but 2, I want to do things like that as well. Drum up our own leads, maybe.
Yes.
Instead of having to rely on brokers.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and we have relationships with brokers, and I do plan on reaching out to more brokers and agents and things like that. And we just upgraded our CRM, so working with that to be able to do that outreach and stuff. But if we can get, I'd much rather work directly with the seller,
Right.
and not have to have that middleman. And I do have my license in Utah, so I
Oh,
can
nice.
I can represent us, if we are going through a broker. So I can put my buyer's agent commission if it's an on market deal towards that, towards our down payment, things like that. But we definitely want to really aim towards getting the direct to seller. Definitely still have relationships with brokers and agents and things like that. But yeah, I think
Yeah.
the direct to seller is for us. We've had much better success negotiating directly with the seller than trying to go through agents and brokers.
That is cool though. The ads, I'm going hard on ads pretty soon. I'm working
Yeah.
on setting. How is the CRM? The Redux, right?
Yeah, so we just got it set up. I just went on to it, and actually, you were the second person I put in there.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
so I've got some training videos I need to watch this week, and then I've got two calls Friday. One, they're going to kind of show the setup of things and some of the training. So hopefully and then I have the next one, the strategy session in a few weeks, but hopefully by the end of this week, between the training videos that I watch and those two training calls that I have with them, I'm hoping to really, because I want to be able to start putting like the properties that we find into there. And like, I need a reminder. Hey, you need to underwrite this, or you need to call this broker. And like, we've been using Excel, and it was okay when we were doing just, a handful of deals, but we want to really ramp that up. So now that like my goal is to be contacting 40 properties a month, like I need something that's going to be sending me reminders, or something that I can go into and I have a dashboard that's, hey, you need to underwrite these ones. You need to call
Right.
these brokers, things like that. So far the REI doc seems good. I'm hoping it continues to be as good as it seems, but but by the next month or two, I'll definitely know how, if it's as good as they made it out to be. But so far it seems really good.
I'm excited for you. I was
So
gonna do it, but I'm afraid of that price tag. I won't lie to you. That is so much. So you're gonna have to let me know how it goes.
yeah, I mean, that's the price tag is always a hesitation, but we got to like, I know that there are brokers and agents and people that have contacted me that I have not responded to, because I'm like, I don't know if you contact me on Facebook Messenger, a direct, you know, Facebook post or Instagram DM or
Right.
Instagram post, or is it one of the Facebook groups and I'm in 7,000 Facebook groups, and which one did you post in, which one did you comment, and just trying to like remember where everything is and where things are, and like putting it into it's like I'm hoping with the CRM, like putting everything into there, putting the asset into there and things like that is going to really just help me get more organized. So, and be able to contact people through that. Like I
Right.
could send emails and text message and different things like directly through the CRM at the same time, and choose tags to send it to, if I just want to reach out to brokers, and I can go into, here's my tag broker or agent, and just, hey, and it can customize like, hey, Trae, just wanted to touch base, see if you've got any, off market deals coming up, or any other multifamilies that might be of interest, let me know.
That's so good, man. Oh man, I'm excited for you.
Yeah.
I'm working with another group to kind of build ours from ground zero. So a little bit more time intensive, but less capital upfront. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. So, outside of the baby boomers, what opportunities are you seeing for the next 6, 12, 18 months?
So, I mean, in multifamily in general, there's, a lot of talk of the people that bought the last several years that had really short term balloons, 2, 3, 4 years, that those are going to be coming due, and their interest rates were 3, 4%, and now they're going to be doubling or tripling depending what their interest rate was. So that's another avenue of making relationships with brokers. If you can make relationships with lenders, that one, I've talked to a handful of investors, and they're all sort of, we don't how you'd be able to capitalize on that. Like, it's definitely about relationships, but if we can network more with brokers and, hey, like, this is what we're looking to buy. So if you have sellers coming to you, and they're always doing outreach as well, they're reaching out to properties even if they're not for sale, being like, hey, I'm a broker, are you looking to sell? So if they know what we're looking for and things like that. But that's another avenue that has a lot of talk in the multifamily, that things will be coming up. Some of them will be well performing assets, so they'll just be able to do a capital call and be able to keep it. But there's definitely going to be those ones where people that didn't know how to run the asset bought them, and it's a failing business basically, and they're going to have to either just fire sale it or get foreclosed on, because it's just not performing well enough that a bank is going to let them either refinance, or investors be willing to put more capital into that deal because it's just so far gone. So
Right.
and as far as house hacking on that side of things, I see house hacking becoming more and more popular as things get more and more expensive. It's hard, and I think it was always hard and expensive to buy a house. I just had a friend visiting me, and she was out here and we were talking about things, and she says, it just dawned on me. She bought her first house 30 years ago, 25, 30 years ago. She goes, even when I was buying my first house, she goes, thinking about it, she goes, I house hacked. She goes, the only way that I was able to afford it was to rent out to a couple of friends. So, a lot of people, I think, like to say that it's a lot harder now. And in some ways, yes, it is. But I think if you're also willing to house hack and make some sacrifices, then it's still very possible to own real estate. I think one thing that makes a big difference, and I really need to look up the stats for this, because so many people are like, back in the 50s and 60s, you could buy, a house for a family. But the average size house back then was like a 2 or 3 bedroom home, one bathroom, maybe two, and you're talking 1,000 square feet, give or
Yeah.
take, maybe 1,200. Where nowadays people want their first home to be this 3,000 to 4,000 square foot, 4 or 5 bedroom, 2 or 3 bath, like, beautiful home. And so if you're wanting to say, okay, well, they could do it in the 50s, then I just respond, I'm like, well, then go and buy like the entry level home.
Hmm.
I bought my first house was a 2 bed, 1 bath, 777 square foot house. That's what I could afford, but that's what I was willing to buy because I could afford it, and it got me into real estate. So I think a lot of people, they don't want to buy the small homes. They want the brand new nice things. They don't want an older home. They want everything to be fancy and new and updated and stuff. And
Yeah.
it's, if you're willing to make the sacrifices and do house hacking, or just buy a smaller home, one that might be a little more dated and needs some updating, is not this brand new place. But so many people I talk to, and I talk to them about what they're looking for, and I'm like, you're also looking for what, in my opinion, is like somebody's second and third home, not an entry level home.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect as well. But
There's there's a few things to unpack there. First, I didn't know that there was 3 4 year term loans in multifamily. I thought they all defaulted to 10. So
no,
that's news to me. That's
yeah, I
um
think I was listening to a podcast, and they don't know exactly, but it was Matt Faircloth and Brian Burke, and they were asked, what's the average kind of term on a multifamily, and then they sort of decided to agree on about 5 years. But yeah, I mean, there's 3, 5, 7, 10 year balloons on multifamilies, and a lot of multifamily, they go in with the anticipation of selling within 3 to 5 years.
right.
They go in, they fix it up, they sell it in 3 to 5 years, because that's how they can get the largest equity multiplier for their investors. So there are a lot of those short-term 3 to 5 year balloons in multifamily. So yeah, you can definitely get 10 year and longer ones, but there's a lot
Yeah,
of that short term as well.
I had no idea. And then so this house is 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, right? So it's like the perfect size where we kind of like we have a beautiful house, but we live in the hood, right? So um we bought this in 2020. Like we were thinking that we were going to stay here for a year, maybe a year and a half, boom, rental property, and then go get a nicer house or live in a better area, one or the other. But man, those interest rates just took off and we are semi stuck. We could leave if we wanted to, but it's hard trading in 1650 mortgage for a $4,500 mortgage.
Yeah.
It's very, very hard. But we like, yesterday we were out in McKinney, which is a suburb of Dallas, super north, like the most suburb you could think of, which is terrifying to me. And we just stopped at a new build community and just walked the house, and we're all like, wow, this is so nice. And then we look at the price, it's $850,000. And I'm like, no, no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
No, we're not there yet. So it's just so funny.
Yeah, the new, I mean, everyone wants the new build and they want
Yeah.
all the fancy stuff.
Beautiful house. Beautiful. But whew, I'll take Old Faithful for now, you know?
Yeah, that's my thing. It's like, in the house we're in now, it's technically a 4-bath, 2,500 square foot house, but because we rent half of it, our half is 2-bed, 2-bath, 1,300 square feet, where yes, we definitely need more space, especially now that we're both working from home. We definitely need more space so we can both have an office, but we look at it as, what are we, being financial analyst background, I'm very on our budget, in our numbers, and I'm definitely willing to take more risks financially than I think a lot of people, just because I know whatever I set my mind to, I'm going to do it. I don't know how I'm going to achieve it, but there's no way I'm ever going to go back to a W-2. We will figure out what we have to do in real estate to make it work and things like that. And, we're fortunate that our properties do support us. So we do have that financial freedom. But we still look at buying another property, and it's, when we live for almost nothing now, it is hard. It's like, oh, how bad do we need?
Right.
We need it, we're reorganizing some stuff now and, rearranging some stuff. And I'm like, oh, and we love our house now. We have the perfect backyard. We have a great house. So for us to move, it's got to be perfect. We're not going to move just because the house is bigger. We've got a lot of toys. We're big into snowmobiling and dirt biking and motorcycles and stuff like that. So we need a place that has storage for that. So for us to move, and we're it is going to be the perfect house that we are looking at, and we are not going to want to move from this for a long time, because it's going to take a lot of time and moving all of our crap to another house. So we're unless if it is perfect, I'm where we live now, we can make it work. It's a great house. But yeah.
I'm such a dad, because we walked in there and it's the living space is all 2 stories, and I'm like, 1, 2, 3. All right, they got 4 vents in here, so the heating might be okay. Just adding it up, gosh, all right, this is probably about $250 a month to heat this bad boy.
Yeah, utilities are something that you have to consider.
Yeah.
And that's something when analyzing deals, everyone, please, if you are getting deals sent to you, or you are seeing somebody post about a deal that cash flows X amount of dollars, or I just bought this duplex, triplex, single family, whatever it is, that cash flows $1,500, $2,000, please know that most of those people are not saying accurate cash flow numbers. The amount of deals that I see in that I get sent to me, or that I see people post about, all that they're doing is they're taking their gross rent. So they've got, for numbers, they have a 4-plex and each unit rents for $1,000. You've got $4,000, and they're backing out just their mortgage payment, just principal and interest. I get deals sent to me where they're not even backing out taxes and insurance. They're like, hey, this is going to cash flow $1,800. And I'm going, okay, I would like to think that that's true. I said, but send me the numbers. And I'm going through and I'm like, you're 18. I'm like, that's not cash flow. You need to back out your principal, your interest, taxes, insurance, also your utilities. In Utah, most of our properties, all the units have their own gas and electric meter, but water, sewer, trash you can't split that up. So we pay that out of ours. We charge our tenant for it, but it's still a bill that comes out of our pocket. So even though we're getting $1,000 for each unit, 4,000 total, we still have to subtract that utility out of that. So many people don't do that. They don't account for vacancy. They don't account for maintenance. They don't account for CapEx. So don't get discouraged if you see these people posting that are saying, I'm, cash flowing X amount of dollars and this much per door. If you see somebody or you're talking to somebody, ask them, what do your numbers include? Are you backing out all expenses, your maintenance, your utilities, your landscaping, property management, all that. I said, and you'll
Mm.
find that cash flow is probably not as good as you're making it seem. So
Do you guys use property managers?
we do now, yeah. We got a property manager last year. We got to the point where, and I was actually at, there's an all-female investment real estate group called Invest Her that Liz Faircloth and Andresa started. That's really, really good. And I was at their conference last year and applied to be on the hot seat during the conference and got chosen. And my biggest takeaway from that was like, we needed to hire a property manager. We
Yeah.
had gotten to the point where we were at 19 doors and us trying to manage. And it wasn't something that we, like, some people want to then grow a property management company. They want to take on other people's properties. That wasn't something we wanted to do. Like, I look at our future and we want to keep buying, but of other things, like I would like to start doing more speaking engagements. I've really enjoyed doing the podcasts and speaking at events and teaching people and helping people. And that's, I'd rather spend our time going that way than build a property management company. So we got a property
Yeah.
manager. It's been really, really good. We do still manage our basement because that's our house. We want full control over who's in there and things like that. And we've had the same tenant. She's been in there for almost three years now. She's got a new roommate about a year and a half ago, but they've been like amazing tenants. They're super cool.
Yeah.
And then we have a duplex in Colorado we also still manage because it's so low maintenance. The one tenant's been there for at least 5 years. The other tenants have been in there for a couple of years. And it's our mailbox money. It was recently updated, so maintenance is almost zero.
Yeah.
So, but all of our other properties, we got a property manager, which was one of the better things we did last year for sure.
Is there a rule of thumb when it comes to like reserves, like for your properties? Is there a certain amount that you're adding to a reserve account every month to account for the unexpected?
Yeah, and that varies. Like your vacancy, you should really look at, what the market is. Like if you don't have any properties there and you're brand new to a market, do some research, reach out to some brokers, find out like what's the average vacancy here. It could be 5%, 10, 15, 20, you never know. Like, so you really want to make sure that you're looking at what the vacancy is. If you already own assets and you already have that, then you can look and see, okay, my vacancy has been, X percentage. We've been really fortunate. I mean, our occupancy is high 90s. Like we have very low vacancy. Last year was the longest vacancy we've ever had. Normally we have, and I think this speaks very highly of us as property managers. We had a time period where we didn't even have to post. We had like 4 or 5 units come available, and within a time frame, we didn't even have to post any of them because we had somebody else in that unit was like, hey, I have a friend that's looking for a place and we'd love for them to live here. Or prior tenants calling being like, hey, I need to move out of the place I'm in, do you guys have anything available? So having that like referral network of current tenants and prior tenants has been really good. It's definitely saved us a ton. So normally, when we have a tenant move out, it's been pretty within a few days, somebody moving in. It's definitely a little longer now. But still normally within a few weeks, we've got a signed lease and somebody moving in. But I definitely would say, look at your vacancy, figure it out. And as far as like the rest of reserves and things like that, it really depends on the age of the property. I mean, if you
Mhm.
buy something
That
that's
makes
brand
sense.
new, turnkey, everything just got flipped and it's new water heaters, new furnaces, you don't need to put as much aside because everything's new. And, the way you can also look at it is, so if you buy a property and there's a water heater that's 5 years old, they say on average you have 10 years for a water heater. So it's okay. A new water heater is going to cost $2,500, $2,000, whatever it is in your area to buy it and get it installed. All right. So if it's $2,000 and in 5 years, I may need one. How much do I have to save each year to save up to that $2,000? So in 5 years, I'll have that. And if it breaks in 4 years, I won't be quite there, but I'll still have some savings. And if it breaks in 7 years, then we just keep saving and we'll have plenty. And if you go through and kind of do that for some of your larger, figure out how old the roof is, look at the furnace. If there's central air, look at the AC, the water heaters, even your appliances, if how nitty gritty you want to get. But to me, that's really the most accurate way to really figure out what you're going to need for reserves is just looking at the age of things. Obviously, you have no idea when things are going to die. I mean, we have water heaters that have died after 8 years. We have water heaters that are 20 years old and, they're scalding
Still
hot. So
kicking.
it really, but the average life of those things, write them all down, write what the average life is, where they are in that, how old they are, and then just figure out, okay, what are they going to be to replace? And that'll give you a good ballpark of what you should be saving each month in order to make sure you have a good portion, if not all of that, when the time comes.
I like it. I like it. So who's your biggest inspiration in all this? Like, who are you, if anybody, who are you modeling yourself after in this business?
As far as our specific business, I don't know anyone else that's focusing like on, we're really focusing on that 2 to 50 units and really going for the boomers. We haven't met anyone else that's aiming specifically for that, but I just look at people like Dina Jetty, like just her success in business, her, she's been doing it for so long now. Like she's definitely somebody that I look at where we don't have the same exact, business plan right now and assets that we're looking at, but just how she runs her business, how she carries herself, how she does things. Like she's definitely somebody that I love learning from, and I love that she's my mentor. She's really, really good. She's probably the biggest one right now, especially the fact she's also doing the multifamily. Like I said, different size assets, different areas, but just
Right.
seeing how she does things. She's definitely the one that right now I'm kind of mimicking business wise the most, and get a lot of really good help from her, and really good just information and business and multifamily.
You
So
definitely you definitely have boss lady energy. So I like out of everybody, not everybody, out of 98% of the people that I talk to, like I can tell that you're going to reach your goals. Like it's crazy. I love it. I love it. Um if you had to go back to day one, would you do anything different?
oh, so much different. It's like there's I know obviously, I mean, anyone that's in real estate, if they, it doesn't matter how early you started, they're like, I wish I started earlier. If I could go back to day one of my investing, even, I started in my mid 30s at 32, 33, somewhere in there. Early 30s is when I bought my first property. If I even just going back to then, I would have bought a multifamily instead of a single family. I would have immediately started house hacking, a fourplex, and done it that way. If I could go back to my early 20s, I would have house hacked a fourplex. Like I just think for people that are like just getting out of high school or just getting out of college, and yes, you do have to come up with a down payment, but if you can save up for a down payment and get into a fourplex, I just think like, man, if I bought my first property at like 24 or 25, bought a fourplex and house hacked, moved out of that within a year or two, and did that 3, 4, 5 times. By the time I was early 30s, I would already have had 4 or 5 properties. And if they are all fourplexes or even threeplexes, I mean, you're already 10, 12, 15 doors. So I definitely would have immediately started house hacking in either 3 or 4 unit assets for sure,
Right.
and started networking sooner. When we first started, when I first started in 2017, I didn't know about Bigger Pockets. I had no idea who Pace Morby was. I don't think he was anyone back then. I think he just got started a year or two after that. But like, I didn't know about all of these resources. I didn't even know there's local groups called Real Estate Investor Associations, RIAs. There's, every state has at least one RIA, I think. But just local meetups and groups and communities. And obviously, Facebook and social media has definitely made that a lot easier. But there's always been the local RIAs that you could go to in local meetups. And I wish I knew about them when we first started, because the networking, and we've really just been involved with them in the last year. But like the connections that we've had, the resources that we found, and the relationships. I mean, real estate is so much about relationships. And I wish that we knew about that 5, 6, 7 years ago. Like I just think of in 5 years, what all of this networking and all of these relationships that we're building now, where that's going to get us. And if we knew about that 5 years ago, like how much further ahead we would be. But I mean, we went to our first real estate conference like a year and a half ago. And we had just
Yeah.
found out about all of these things. It was just a friend of
Wow.
us told us about them. And I was just like, oh my God. I'm like, and it's one of those things like, that these events happen for everything, but it never dawned on me that, oh yeah, look into these for real estate. And
Right.
a friend introduced us to the RIAs, which just like opened up this world of like networking with people and Bigger Pockets and Brandon Turners and the Pace Morbies and the Vina Jetties and all that. And it was just like mind blown of like, why didn't, like, of course there's events on this, of course there's conferences, but it was just one of those things. We were just hustling and just so busy. I was working a full-time job, basically 2 full-time jobs, because I'm working my W-2. We're working just as many, if not more hours on our real estate between everything that we were doing. So we were just so like hustling. It wasn't until I actually retired from the W-2 and had time to just like step back and chill that we found out about all these networking events. So anyone who's trying to get started, even if you know nothing, look up local RIAs, look up local meetups, start making relationships, start going and talking to people, and just be honest with you. Like, I am brand new. I have no idea what I want to do in real estate. What do you do in real estate? And just start talking to people.
We have one here. I just pulled it up. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but this lady, so they do ads on Facebook. I probably spend as much time on Facebook as a 70-year-old, but yeah, I'm not hip yet. I'm trying to get into like Twitter and Instagram. It's hard, but their ads, it's just her, and they always Photoshop her like body, and I'm just like, man, I don't know why they're doing that. She's probably a lovely lady, but it's
What's
like,
her name?
I have no idea. I've seen her ads so many times, and it's just like, what the hell? This is a real estate network or what? Next time I see one, I'll screenshot it and send it to you because
Yeah.
it's just uncomfortable. But I need to start going. I need to just like, all right, whatever. That's the cost of entry. The one thing that I struggle with real estate, right? And you probably have the same issues. By the way, your hair looks great. Um, yeah. Going into these spaces and not seeing a lot of people that look like you. You're a woman, I'm a person of color in these rooms, and I don't like to dress up. Like, this is me. I really struggle with, like, I have a bunch of events coming up this year, and you look great and you're probably comfortable, but this is what I'm comfortable in. And me going to these events and trying to put on a suit or something, it's just not me. I'm really struggling to come to terms with that.
I don't think you have to wear a suit. Like, look at, to me, it's as long as you look presentable. Because, like, my husband is my husband's a contractor right now. He's out, he's building something. He's working on a garage. Like, when he gets free time, he is like out working with his hands. It's what he loves. It's what he does. Like, that is just who he is. Like, when I met him, I don't know if he owned, a dress shirt. He may have owned like one.
Yeah.
So, like, going to these things, it's like, you don't have to, you just have to me, as long as you look presentable, and even if you're showing up, and the amount of meetups that we go to where people are in hoodies, it's a ton. And that's one of the things that's great about real estate is you don't have to worry about, wearing a 3-piece suit and being all fancy. You may not want to go in stuff that's, looks like a bum would wear it, but as long as you're wearing like clean clothes and look presentable and stuff like that, once you start talking to people, that means way more. There are a few people that I see, and that there are certain things that I see them wear that I just think like, yeah, like derogatory
Questionable.
comments like on their hats or
Oh no.
things like that. I'm just like,
Oh no.
maybe not that. Like, wear a ball cap, fine, but maybe just like a Nike or a Titleist or something. Like, not something that's
Right.
derogatory towards women. Like, so yeah,
What?
there's yeah.
Man, you guys are crazy out in Utah, man.
Yeah, there's some people I'm like, yeah, I'd prefer that. Like that I see and I'm like, yeah, that I wouldn't want. Like that's
Yeah,
somebody that when I see that, like I wouldn't want to work with them. But just because
makes
somebody's
sense.
in a hoodie, like I don't care about that. Like
Yeah, I
that
gotta
that
I gotta
level of
figure
stuff.
something out because I got a lot of events that I'm going to this year, and I'm just like, oh man, what the hell am I gonna wear? And if I wear this stuff, it's stuffy, and I feel like a fraud, and I'm uncomfortable, right? Like, we'll figure it out though. But
Yeah.
um,
Well, and that's one thing that I love about Vina and Pace is Vina, especially because obviously she's a woman and she's, not a white person. So like she represents, people that are not your stereotypical like white male that kind of dominates the real estate industry, like having a female that does that. And there's more females getting into it. There's more, people of color and stuff like that. And that's one of the things I love about Pace's group and Venus group is you go to those calls and you're in them, and it is so good to see such like a large like diversity of people. And
Yeah.
our meetups in Utah, I would love to see more. Like we're actually starting a Latino. My husband's on the Latino. He's not a Latino. He's a white dude, but he speaks Spanish. So they like our Utah RIA started a Latino committee. So they're really trying to build that up to get the Latinos involved, and just get more females involved, and just the white males just have dominated the real estate. So like anytime you can bring people in that are not just the white males, it's always good. Not that
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
don't associate with them, but it is good to have a diversity of people, whether that's male, female, black, Asian, Indian, whatever it is. Like to me, the more diversity, the better. So it's another thing I love about Bina and Pace's thing is how diverse those groups are.
I love it. I love it. So in wrapping this up, I mean, any last bits of advice you'd like to share?
Really, probably the networking, like that. It can cost you nothing. You look up local meetups and you look up local places to go and network with investors and other people in real estate, and that is really your best way. Like you can go there, you can learn. And the RIAs, like our Utah RIA, yes, you do have to pay for it. It's $150 a year.
It's not bad.
So you can pay 16 or 15 bucks a month to be a member, and every RIA is different. But just to like give you an example, like, so if you're in Utah and you want to join something, you're like, well, I don't have a lot of money. Like you can probably afford $15 or $16 a month, but just going and networking and people that show up to those and that show up regularly, if they were to find a property and find something or have questions, like everyone there is willing to help and is going to help you. And when we see them regularly and we know that like they're asking questions and they're trying to learn and they're trying to do that, like everyone wants to help those people that show up and are consistent, and you can tell they're putting in the effort and they're really trying to learn. The people that show up once and you're like, hey, I need help with this, like, yeah, you're still probably going to help them, but like you're going to have way more energy to help the people that are coming regularly. So go network, talk to people. There's so many real estate groups in all over the place. So start building relationships. That to me is probably one of the biggest things to get into real estate, is just start building those relationships and networking with people.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, Lisa, thank you so much for hopping on with me today. Where can the listeners find you?
Instagram is probably the best place. You can find me. It is More Doors with Lisa, Moore, our last name. A little play on words. So yeah, find me More Doors with Lisa on Instagram, and on Facebook. You can look me up as well, Lisa Field Moore. Those are probably the two best places. So definitely feel free to reach out if you have any questions. We love talking to people, love helping people. So
Awesome.
don't be a stranger.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, again, thank you very much for joining me. I'm Trae Jacobs. This is Lisa Field Moore of More Life Capital. Listeners, thank you for being here. We'll see you next time. Peace.